Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something really important, something that affects potentially thousands of pet owners across the country and maybe even internationally. We're talking about a recent health alert concerning salmonella infections and the surprising source identified by health officials, our beloved pet geckos. You might have seen headlines or heard whispers about this, but we're going deep. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, recently activated its Health Alert Network, often called HAN, to warn the public and healthcare providers about a multi-state outbreak of a specific type of salmonella linked directly to contact with pet geckos. Now, I know what many of you might be thinking. Geckos? Those cute, often docile little reptiles that many families, including those with children, keep as pets? It sounds unlikely, almost counterintuitive. But the data is compelling and the risk, while manageable, is very real, especially for certain vulnerable groups. In this video, we're going to break down everything you need to know. Alright, let's start with the core of the issue. The CDC's Health Alert Network, or HAN, and the specific alert regarding geckos and salmonella. What is the HAN? Think of it as an emergency broadcast system for public health threats. The CDC uses HAN to quickly share vital, cleared information about urgent health incidents with public health officials, healthcare professionals, laboratories, and the public. When a HAN alert goes out, it signals something significant that requires attention. In this instance, the CDC issued an alert because they, along with public health officials in several states, identified a cluster, an outbreak of human infections caused by a specific strain of bacteria, Salmonella moenchen. This is going to be a long detailed video because the topic demands it. My goal isn't to scare you away from owning reptiles, but to empower you with the knowledge to keep both your family and your pets safe and healthy. So, if you find this eye-opening, hit that like button, share it with your reptile-loving friends, and subscribe for more health scoops. Let's get started. Alright, before we jump into this gecko outbreak, let's get the basics down. What exactly is salmonella? Well, it's a type of bacteria, a pretty sneaky one, that causes an infection called salmonellosis. You've probably heard of it in the context of food poisoning, like when someone forgets to cook their chicken all the way through. But here's the twist. Salmonella isn't just a food problem. It can hitch a ride on animals too, including reptiles like geckos. So, how does it work? Salmonella hangs out in the intestines of infected animals and humans. When they do their business, the bacteria can spread into the environment. In foodborne cases, it might contaminate raw meat or unwashed veggies. But with geckos, it's more direct. These little guys can carry salmonella in their gut without even looking sick. Their poop can spread it onto their skin, tank, or anything they touch. Then, if you handle your gecko or clean its habitat and don't wash up properly, bam, you could accidentally ingest it. Maybe you touch your mouth, eat a sandwich, or rub your eyes. That's all it takes. What happens if you get it? The symptoms aren't fun. Diarrhea, sometimes brutal, fever, and stomach cramps that make you wish you'd stayed in bed. They usually kick in 6 hours to 6 days after exposure and can last 4 to 7 days. For most healthy folks, it's a rough week and then you're fine. But for kids under 5, older adults, or anyone with a weaker immune system, it can get serious. Think dehydration, hospitalization, or worse. The CDC says salmonella causes about 1.35 million infections, 26,500 hospitalizations, and 420 deaths in the US every year. That's no small potatoes. The good news? You can avoid it with some simple steps. We'll get to those later. For now, just know that salmonella is a master of disguise and your gecko might be an unsuspecting carrier. Let's move on to the outbreak that's got everyone talking. Now, let's get to the heart of this story. The salmonella outbreak linked to geckos that's got the CDC on high alert. As of March 22, 2025, the CDC dropped a bombshell on X, saying there are 8 confirmed cases across 8 states, all tied to pet geckos. That's right, these tiny reptiles are at the center of a multi-state health scare. Unfortunately, we don't have the exact list of states from that post. Imagine it's places like California, Texas, New York, or others with big pet-owning populations. But the CDC is working with local health departments to pin it down. 8 cases might not sound like a lot, but here's the kicker. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Many people get salmonella, feel lousy, and recover without ever seeing a doctor or getting tested. So the real number could be higher, and the outbreak might stretch beyond those 8. States geckos are popular pets nationwide after all. What do we know about the victims? Details are slim, but based on past outbreaks, it's likely a mix of ages. Kids who love their pets, adults who handle them, maybe even grandparents who didn't realize the risk. No deaths have been reported in this specific outbreak yet, but hospitalizations are possible, especially if vulnerable folks are involved. The CDC's Health Alert Network kicked into gear, issuing a warning to health pros and the public to watch out and take action. This isn't the first time geckos have caused trouble. Let's zoom out for a sec. In Canada, from August 2020 to September 2024, there was a Salmonella outbreak linked to geckos. 25 people got sick across 7 provinces. 1 person died, and 3 ended up in the hospital. Earlier in 2024, another Canadian outbreak with Salmonella lome, also tied to geckos, hit between March and May. Back in the US, while this 2025 outbreak is fresh, reptiles like turtles and bearded dragons have sparked Salmonella scares before. It's a pattern, folks. So when did this US outbreak start? The CDC hasn't pinpointed an exact date, but cases likely popped up in early 2025, triggering their investigation. How'd they connect it to geckos? Probably through patient interviews. Hey, do you have any pets? And lab tests confirming the same Salmonella strain in humans and gecko environments. It's detective work meets microbiology. What's the CDC saying about it? They're not just sitting back. The Health Alert Network is their megaphone, blasting out info to doctors, nurses, and US regular folks. They've warned that geckos can carry Salmonella without symptoms, and they're urging pet owners to step up their hygiene game. Think hand washing like your life depends on it, because it just might. They're also tracking new cases, meaning this outbreak could still grow. Picture this. You're in one of those 8 states, maybe Ohio or Florida, and you've got a gecko named Spike. You've been handling him like usual, but now you're wondering, could I be next? That's the reality for thousands of pet owners right now. The CDC's message is clear. This is serious but preventable. We'll break down their advice later, so stay tuned. For now, know that this outbreak is live, it's evolving, and it's a wake-up call. Geckos might be chill pets, but they're not risk-free. Let's dig into why these little guys are such Salmonella hotspots next. Okay, so why geckos? What makes these tiny, big-eyed lizards a Salmonella magnet? Let's get nerdy for a minute and break it down. First off, Salmonella isn't picky. It loves hanging out in the guts of all kinds of animals, but reptiles like geckos are VIP hosts. Studies show that up to 90% of reptiles, snakes, lizards, turtles, carry Salmonella naturally in their digestive systems. They're not sick, it's just part of their microbiome, like how we've got good bacteria in our guts. For geckos, it's the same deal. They can pick it up from their food, crickets, mealworms, or their environment, and it just chills there, no harm to them. Here's where it gets tricky. Geckos shed Salmonella in their poop, and not all the time, just sometimes. So one day your gecko's tank might be clean, the next it's a bacteria party. That poop gets on their skin, the tank glass, the little rock they sunbathe on. You reach in to grab them or swap out their water dish, and now it's on your hands. If you don't scrub up and then eat a chip or bite your nails, you've just rolled the dice on salmonellosis. Kids are especially at risk. They're hands-on with pets, hugging, holding, maybe even sneaking a kiss on that cute gecko head. Then they run off to play without washing up. Adults aren't immune either. We get lazy sometimes too. Ever cleaned a tank and thought, hey, I'll wash later? That's the moment Salmonella's waiting for. Another angle. Geckos are low-maintenance pets, which makes them super popular. People love them because they're quiet, don't need walks and look cool in a terrarium. But that popularity means more folks are bringing them home without knowing the risks. Pet stores might not always hammer home the Salmonella warning. Here's your gecko, have fun, leaving new owners in the dark. And get this, geckos often live in warm, humid tanks, perfect for bacteria to thrive if you're not cleaning regularly. Add in substrate like coconut fiber or moss, and you've got a cozy Salmonella hideout. It's not the gecko's fault, it's just biology meeting bad habits. Imagine Jake, a 12-year-old who begged for a leopard gecko for his birthday. He names it Zippy and loves showing it off to friends. One day he's feeding Zippy, gets distracted by a text and forgets to wash his hands. Next thing he knows, he's doubled over with stomach pain. That's how fast it can happen. Not every gecko has salmonella, and not every touch leads to sickness. It's a numbers game, but the risk is real, especially with outbreaks like
this one popping up. It's why the CDC keeps saying treat every gecko like it's a carrier just to be safe. Next, we'll look at how this isn't a one-off problem. Geckos have a history with salmonella. This 2025 outbreak isn't Gecko's first rodeo with salmonella. Let's rewind and look at some history to see what it teaches us. Take Canada for starters. Between March 2020 and March 2024, a Salmonella lomae outbreak linked to geckos sickened 36 people. Investigators traced it back to gecko habitats and homes, proof these pets can be ground zero. Then, from August 2020 to September 2024, another Canadian outbreak with Salmonella mention hit 25 people, with 1 death and 3 hospitalizations. That's sobering stuff. In the US, reptiles have a track record too. In 2019, a multi-state Salmonella outbreak tied to pet turtles, not geckos but close cousins, made headlines. The CDC's been waving red flags about reptiles for years, warning about turtles, bearded dragons, even snakes. Geckos have popped up in smaller clusters before, though this 2025 outbreak is one of the bigger ones recently flagged. What's the pattern? Reptiles carry salmonella naturally, and when humans get too cozy without precautions, outbreaks spark. These incidents often hit kids hardest. They're drawn to these pets, but adults and seniors get caught too. It's a cross-demographic threat. These past outbreaks scream one thing: education matters. People love their reptiles, but too many don't know the risks until it's too late. The CDC's seen this movie before, which is why they're pushing hard now. Let's see what they're doing about it. Okay, we've covered the alert, the bacteria, the gecko link, and the risks. Now let's focus on the most important part: prevention. The good news is that by following specific, consistent hygiene and handling practices, you can significantly reduce the risk of getting salmonella from your pet gecko or other reptiles. These recommendations come directly from the CDC and other public health experts. Scrub up. After handling your gecko or its gear, wash your hands with soap and water for 20 to 30 seconds. Sing happy birthday twice if you need a timer. No soap? Use 60% alcohol sanitizer, but soap's better. Zone control. Keep the gecko tank far from your kitchen or dining table. Salmonella loves food prep areas, don't give it a chance. Tank. TLC. Clean the enclosure weekly. Use a bleach mix. 1/3 cup bleach per gallon of water. Wipe everything down, rinse well, and let it dry. Wear gloves if you can. Hands off. Face. When you're holding your gecko, no touching your mouth, nose, or eyes. And definitely no kisses. Save those for your dog. Kid patrol. If your kids play with the gecko, watch them like a hawk. Make hand washing a non-negotiable rule. Set up a fun sink station to make it a game. Family briefing. Tell everyone at home, roommates, spouse, grandma about the risks and rules. Even guests need the memo if they're gecko curious. No sink sharing. Don't wash gecko dishes in your kitchen sink. Use a bathroom or laundry tub. Keep separate sponges or brushes for gecko stuff. Pet check. If your gecko seems off, sluggish, not eating, see a vet. Sick pets might shed more bacteria. Stay sharp. Follow CDC updates. If they say new cases in your state, double down on these habits. Following these steps consistently is the best way to enjoy your pet gecko while minimizing the risk of salmonella infection for yourself and your family. It requires diligence and awareness, but it's entirely manageable for most households without high-risk individuals. Wow, we've covered a lot today, huh? From the CDC's alert on this gecko-linked Salmonella outbreak to how you can stay safe, it's been a ride. This information isn't meant to cause panic or make you get rid of your beloved pet gecko unnecessarily, especially if no one in your household is in a high-risk group. Instead, it's about fostering awareness and responsible action. Understand the risk, implement the prevention strategies diligently, and stay informed. Check the CDC website for the latest updates on this outbreak and for detailed guidance on staying healthy around pet reptiles. If you or a family member develops symptoms of salmonellosis, especially after contact with a gecko or other reptile, seek medical attention and inform your doctor about the potential exposure. Thank you for sticking with me through this detailed breakdown. I know it was a lot, but this is important information for public health and for responsible pet ownership. What are your thoughts? Do you own geckos or other reptiles? Were you aware of these risks? What prevention strategies do you use? Share your experiences and insights respectfully in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. If you found this video informative and helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with other pet owners or potential owners you know, and consider subscribing for more deep dives into health, science, and animal-related topics. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss future updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.